Testing. Sorry. All right. Good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and get the school board meeting for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 officially underway. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we get started, Mr. Kephart gave me a contact and said that he would not be able to attend tonight's meeting, so I would like to officially excuse him. We'll go ahead and vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Kephart is excused from tonight's meeting. Any changes to the agenda, Dr. Finch?
No changes?
All right, going on to item 5 on the agenda, communications, response to public comments.
Wrong.
Actually, we're on the study session.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back to the right one. You're correct. I'm looking at. Thank you for that correction. No changes to the agenda. Let's see, communications,
Yep,
no communications,
yep.
discussion items.
All right, here we
Department
go.
presentations.
Yeah, so our study session this evening gives us a chance to have our annual report from facilities, information technology, and finance. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and have the board join the audience, and we'll be able to see the PowerPoint. And we'll have each of the directors present their information. Then we'll have the board come back so that we can use the microphones and have some question and answer and just discussion time. It's a bit more informal than a formal board meeting. It's a study session this evening. Chance for the directors to share information and updates about the departments. So this evening we'll have Jack McCaskill as our Director of Facilities, Jeremy Cox, Director of Information Technology, and Sheila Wood, Director of Finance. We'll go ahead and have them start and we'll join the audience.
Okay, I guess it's me. I'm Jack McCaskill, Facilities Director. Just a little bit about the department. My Facilities Assistant Director is Blake Scully, Secretary Chris Dickman. We have 6 facility department groundsmen in the department. We have 6 facilities tradesmen, including 1 electrician, 2 plumbers, carpenter, locksmith. 1 facility district warehouseman, Keith Rogers, who works in the warehouse. We have 35 full-time district custodians and right now 10 substitute custodians. Oh, went too far. So this year, just kind of touching on some projects that we haven't necessarily completed ourselves, but have assisted with or have been done in the district. First off, we'll start with the installation of the artificial turf, replacement of the track, and the retrofitting of the grandstands at AD and to meet ADA compliance at Clayson Field. That project was completed just in time for school this year. Still a little bit of work going on down there, but mostly completed. We will be getting a new press box probably towards the end of summer, maybe a little bit later, having some difficulties on delivery with that thing. New well was completed and connected out at Mountain View Elementary just in time for the school year. We added a new staff parking lot out at Mountain View Elementary, an additional 34 places there so we can clean up the front parking lot for pickup and community parking. We did get the roofs replaced at Cottonwood Elementary, Mountain View Elementary, White Hollow Elementary. All of those roofs are completed and working well. Just recently, warranty replacement of all the lights in Apple Valley and Summit View's hallway due to widespread LED strip failures. We were able to get all that work done under warranty, which was a good deal. And then continuation of the district LED lighting upgrade. We've had work done at the Atanum Elementary, White Hollow Elementary, which were both gyms as well as some hallways. The middle school, the gym, the junior high gym, and Innovation Center gyms as well. So those projects have been completed, and quite a few others, but that's the ones that I want to highlight this time. Just a little bit more about our department, just so you kind of know the amount of facility use requests that we process annually. This year so far, we've already done 676 facility use requests processed and approved, 2,531 work orders completed, and 1,377 preventative maintenance work orders that are associated completed as well. So stay pretty busy in the department. The future for facilities department, continuation of the district LED lighting upgrade. Eventually, we want to have all the classrooms, hallways done. That's kind of where we're at right now. We have a lot of hallways and haven't really started the classrooms yet. So that's what we'll be moving with forward with in the future. The restructuring of the district facility use request procedures is a big topic for this summer. We'll be working on that in our department as well as with Joe to get the facility procedures lined out a little bit better. Maintenance and support of the newly installed artificial turf and running track at Clayson Field. Kind of a learning curve on that one for us. You know, we've always had grass, natural grass, so learning on that, and we will continue to learn and maintain that. To support the replacement of the boilers and the chiller units at Cottonwood Elementary and White Hollow. The chillers were actually set Monday. Removed the chillers from Cottonwood as well as White Hollow and set them with the crane. So those will be coming online. The chilling units first week of May and the second week of May. And then by the end of July, we will have the boilers up and running. So everything will be good to go for next year. And then continue to support the district's facility use requests, work orders, and deferred maintenance systems. That's kind of what we do. And anything else that comes up, we're asked to get to do. Continue maintenance and support of the district's building, facilities, equipment, and grounds. Our everyday, I guess you'd call it bread and butter for the department. So that's the kind of the department in a nutshell. Okay.
All right, my name is Jeremy Cox. I'm the director of IT, or Information Technology, if you prefer. In my department, there's 8 of us, I think now. We got myself, a network administrator, Jason Keisner, a systems operation or a system administrator, Tyler Vetch, our operations person, Sean Phillips, student records systems admin, which is Heather Williams. Caleb Storr is our cybersecurity guy. And then we have 3 technician level people, Cooper Maloney, I'm terrible with his name, Angel Preciado, and Anna Moore. I'll just kind of make a little note on this. In the last 2 years, we lost Magdalena Sanchez. She retired, and we lost Michelle Schufferbein or Gaberman, who moved down to Phoenix or somewhere in Arizona, Scottsdale, I think, actually. So that's almost 30 years worth of institutional and IT knowledge that we lost in the last 2 years. So the learning curve for Heather and Caleb too is pretty steep. There's a lot to learn, so they're trying to get the systems understood and all that stuff. So that's us. We support well over 10,000 devices on a regular day. 5,000 Chromebooks, so more like 6,000 Chromebooks with the staff. A couple thousand Windows devices, hundreds of switches, access points throughout every building, all wireless technology, servers, camera systems, cameras, projectors, document cameras, like you name it, we support it. So it's a lot of work for 9 of us, doing lots of things. So we're constantly busy, constantly doing stuff. Some things that we did this year, some highlights. We deployed ClassLink. Goal 1 of the district's goal, safety and belonging. We're allowing cybersecurity type of safety. Allow quick cards for students to easily log in by taking the quick cards, showing it to the camera, and they can log in without having to remember passwords and whatnot. So made it a little easier for the younger kids to log in. The older kids can do it as well. We turned on multi-factor authentication for the secondary students. So they have that quick card so they can scan it and then they type I think it's 5-digit PIN, 6-digit PIN, I think it is, to log in. So that has that multi-factor authentication, which helps, bolster that cybersecurity, trying to reduce the amount of hackers being able to just log in with just a generic password if they get compromised. And then we created, it also creates a launch pad for single sign-on authentication to a district app. So they log into ClassLink, it launches the launch pad, and they can go and click on any of the iReadies and the HRW or HMH or whatever they have nowadays. So many applications, hard to keep them all track of them all. We've also added some line-wise additions. We added the content aware feature. Now, when they go to search like string, for instance, a good example. So search string, it'll show actual images of string, but eventually you might get a string bikini in there. Well, this line-wise, what it does is it blurs those images so they can't see them. So trying to reduce what the kids are getting access to and visually. So it's a new product, so it's constantly learning and getting better and better. So over time, it's going to get even better. But it does a pretty good job already right now. So we've implemented that this year. We also launched Parent Square to replace Remind. Remind got bought out by Parent Square, so it was coming eventually. So we just went ahead and did it now to actually get a better product. Parent Square, it does a lot more features than what Remind did, so it's pretty good product. So far, it's been well received and looks like it's going pretty good. That was just last week we deployed it, so it's pretty recent. What else did we do? We integrated our building security systems with our district alerting systems. So when the person presses the panic button in the offices, it'll send an Informacast alert to all of the district staff that have the app, all the administrators and secretaries or whoever else signs up for it. So we get that communication. So calls 911, does all that stuff, locks the doors, brings down the gates and all that stuff, but it also sends a notice. So we are notified too. So just a little better communication, making it easier on them when they're in a lockdown situation. It's one less thing they have to worry about. That's all done except for Apple Valley, Sunview, and middle school, which we're working on tomorrow. So fresh stuff too. And then we also launched Custodio. It's another LineWise product. This is actually free with our LineWise filter. They give us a product where parents can go out and create an account for themselves, and they can monitor their students' activity on the web. So they can see the history of what they're doing. They can set time limits and basically what we're doing with the filter, but they're doing it for themselves at home. So they have some little bit of granular control at home. And then they can also have one device that's a personal device that they can manage as well. We don't see any of that, but they have access and control of it. So pretty cool. It's free for us, and it's a good parent thing. There's also there's also a web app or web page that they designed for us that has lots of materials for parents so they can get better educated on cybersecurity, but internet usage. So things like what's trending now, and just general safety tips for online life for kids. So pretty cool thing. It's all free, and it's rolled out, I want to say last Friday. So pretty fresh as well. So I was rolling it out as I was writing this up. So I had to modify. I was like, oh, this is now live and not going to be. So all right, and then some future stuff. So continuing improvement. Cybersecurity is always my number one topic. It's always my main focus. If you see this link here, the top one, that's a really good report from CISA that gives us a real detailed information of what we should be doing as a district, where we should be spending funds for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is huge right now, in the fact that the school institutions are easy targets. We're low funded, we're understaffed, and we have lots and lots of personal information out there. So we're a high target, we're a valuable target. So we're constantly under attack. So I'm constantly focusing on that. So if you have time, I would highly recommend you reading it. Everybody in this room should be reading it. It's a good stuff, really good stuff. The next link there is an actual link to one of our local schools, Highline School District. They got hacked last year by an unknown attacker at this time, but to us at least. They haven't announced it to my knowledge. But yeah, they got bad. So they were down for 2 weeks, I want to say. No school during the cyber incident. Last I talked to them last month, they still couldn't print. So so things that you don't think about regularly, they affect. Systems were down for long periods of time. No school, nothing like that. So it's pretty serious stuff. So that's why it's always on the top of my list and my main focus. So whenever I'm doing anything, it's cybersecurity first, and then trying to get everything else next. Phone system replacement. We're looking at potentially, hopefully next year, replacing our phone system. Phone system's circa 2005. So it's an old. We've upgraded it since then, but that's when it went in. Most of those phones are from 2005. So if you look around the district, you'll see phones that are from 2005. They're a bit aged. They're starting to fail, starting to fall apart, starting to not work anymore. Cybersecurity wise, they're not great. We have to isolate them and do special things to make sure they don't get compromised. And if they do, they can't touch anything else. But it's a big thing. But we have 750 phones out there in the buildings. Every classroom, every nook and cranny has a phone practically. So there's quite a few of them. So it's a big project. It's a lot to take in and a lot to do on that. So we're trying to find a suitable option within our limited budget for this because it's tight. So hopefully next year we'll be looking at that. Right now we're currently in the process of replacing some network equipment from our E-rate funding from last year. So we've got we did Cottonwood and some of the high school yesterday. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the middle school and a tandem. So we're in the process of doing that. So we're trying to get as much done during this week as we can. The rest of that will come through in summertime. And then so we've got I think we have 60 switches we're replacing. So that's quite a bit of work right there. So UPS is the uninterrupted power supplies, the battery backups for our equipment as well as getting replaced. So quite a bit going on there. Next year, again, we have we'll be doing some more of that. We have another E-rate out there. I'm trying to get approved for that one right now that you guys approved, I think, last board meeting. So we've got that one out there pending. So we haven't heard about if we got the funding yet, but that'll replace the last of the 10-year-old equipment out there. And then we'll start the whole cycle again. Fun times. And then, as always, we try to focus on our IT staff professional development. We're constantly going to trainings or watching videos or webinars, getting in touch with all sorts of vendors and anywhere we can find some information. We're trying to gather it. So we're constantly doing that. And as you probably know, technology changes faster than the speed of light. It's constantly. Every day I wake up and it's like, something new. So makes it fun, I guess. It's a constant learning, right? So that's all I've got. Cool.
Yep. Good evening. Sheila Wood, Director of Finance. We'll start off with the staffing. We have had one change this year. We have one of the accountants wanted to move into an HR position, so I have opened up a lead accountant position. We've kind of reevaluated that position, made some changes, but we do have a person that we've made an offer to. We have the same payroll coordinator, Gilbert Sayans, and then accounting tech is Jennifer Crutch, and accounts payable is Marie Bush. So for the current school year, we have done some implementation, and most of it is software. We have implemented a multi-factor authentication system for the financial module of the Tyler software, which is what we use for the HR, payroll, finance. That's what we use. It's called Okta. It's emails based. So now you have to do a two-part multi-login. We are upgrading the InTouch. That's kind of a mandated. That's our cash receipting, and they're going from InTouch, what they call legacy, to InTouch Pay, which is a cloud version. We have, we're running it side by side with my staff right now, so we get familiar with it because it does look very different. So we'll hope to implement that in the fall. And then with that, they do offer a point of sale credit card devices, but that's put on hold right now. Their devices were pulled because they switched vendors. So we have been delayed once again. And then the department is continuing to work on cross-training. And with a new person coming in, that's a great time to really get some cross-training going. So So for the future, I've been attending a lot of additional trainings for the challenges that many school districts are facing. It's pretty interesting and the different solutions that they're offering. Lots of updates on that, not a lot of solutions, to be honest. We're monitoring the state and federal proposed initiatives, as you know, with the political upheaval, really paying attention to the grants and the cuts and the federal versus state to see there's so much unknown right now. And we monitor enrollment always for the possible impact and monitor the trends. Right now, I'm beginning the 25-26 budget, which we're starting to get into the thick of that, and then we'll go right into the year end. We're also preparing for a new staff member, so we'll be putting together training. And then we're also monitoring and implementing all the OSPI accounting requirements. I won't bore you with them all, but there's all kinds of requirements for leases and software. And they're also starting to really look at your fund balance as part of the process and really looking at unassigned fund balance, which is new. So monitoring that as well. And that's all I have.
So the three of you can gather around here and we'll have a discussion. Well, thank you again to our directors for the updates. And now it's time just for some informal discussion with the board and the directors.
Thank you so much, Jack. I just have a quick question for you. You were talking about the LED strip failures.
Yeah.
Do we expect, was there a recall? Is it going to affect some more lighting or?
Just at the two new schools, they all had the same lighting. And it looks like it was, from what we can have been told, it was just a bad batch of lighting.
Okay.
That they took ownership of and sent new lighting, as well as the electricians from New York to replace them all.
And no disruption to the classrooms?
Nope, we got it done after hours. They were actually done in 3 days, got both schools done in 3 days.
Wow, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks to your team. Every building I go to is always looking good. So appreciate all the work you guys do. Just a off the wall question. What does it take to maintain the new football field? Since it's not grass. I mean, when you say maintenance, what do you have to do?
Well, you groom it. You know, maybe you don't know, but there's a lot of pellets underneath there that give it the cushion and support. So it has to be groomed. We have a machine that came with the field for that. So you pull that behind the side-by-sides what we have, the gator.
Okay.
And then you also have to water the field down. We're not set up to do that yet, but we will be by this summer. That kind of helps redistribute the pellets as well as wash any matter through so it can drain out. There's a lot less maintenance than there would be with grass. Yeah, we don't have to mow it, but just basically keep it groomed, keep your pellets distributed. And Coast to Coast Turf actually will be coming through for the next 3 years to monitor that, kind of help make sure we're doing that so that you don't get distribution of pellets, in one spot that you might not notice. So any tears, we've already had one small tear. You have to mend those kind of things, stay on top of those before they turn into big tears. And it wasn't really a tear. It was just a seam that didn't get sewed quite good enough. So basically just keep it clean. Keep it groomed, keep it clean, and water it every once in a while to keep any kind of biohazards that wash through it.
Thanks.
Hi, Jack. Thank you. I have a few questions for you. Just on the facility use requests, couple things come to mind. Number one is the number that you quoted. You said there were quite a bit. Does that represent an increase from the previous year or previous years? And my second question is, the bulk of those requests, are they external requests or are they internal requests for use of those facilities? And what gets used the most? I'm thinking it's the gym, but I don't know that for a fact.
Gyms are the highest used area. Typically, it is community usage mainly. I mean, we have a lot of school sports, but in general, if you were to go per event, it's community events. And as far as this compared to last year, we're actually down from what we were last year at this time. Not by a lot, but I think we were close to 900 requests last year. That's kind of due to some teams, I think, combining practices and our fields do get a lot of usage, probably more, there again, community. Community is where most of the usage of our fields and gyms are.
Okay, that's great to hear, and I'm glad that we make those sort of things available to the community. So, one last question regarding that: do you feel that, when the community usage is there and people use it, they generally will take care of it, or have we experienced much damage or anything like that along those lines?
Our community members are really pretty good. We don't have very much vandalism. Well, from sports teams, you don't really get a lot of vandalism, but we have very little vandalism. And actually very little debris left. We do get some, that custodians come through and clean them and empty the garbage cans. A lot of times that's just because they got full or overflown. But no, I would have to say that in general, our community members are very respectful of our buildings and our fields. If we do have a problem, we address that problem. There are consequences if you don't clean up after yourself, then you're going to pay custodial fees. If there's damage that we find out was from your organization that you don't report to us, then there will be a fee assessed. And then we had to do that a few times, and we've never really had any pushback anytime it's been assessed. The teams usually, confess that it was one of our players who apologized, and here's the check. So it hasn't been a problem.
That's great. Great to hear. So I'm a big supporter of making those kind of things available to the communities that support us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, staying with facilities before I have some other questions. First of all, Jack, to echo Mr. Walcott's comment earlier, all of the buildings the exterior of the buildings and the grounds just look terrific. And I have a student that goes to the high school, and so I see the outside of this facility a lot. A few weeks ago, I was dropping Gavin off at school, and after I dropped him off, I noticed one of the workers out literally policing east of the parking lot for garbage in the morning. And I was like, man, there's nothing out here, and they're still picking it up. I just think that just presents the school district and it presents our school district in a very favorable light, and it shows that we are good stewards. And so thank you very much to you and your team for all your efforts. It makes the district look good. So thank you.
You're welcome.
A couple of questions along with Mr. Strong's question about facility use. You mentioned that one of the tasks ahead is to look at the restructuring of the procedures for usage. Can you? I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but can you talk about a little bit some areas that you feel like are needed for improvement in that area, and kind of what you might be looking at without over-promising or under-delivering, but could you talk about that a little bit?
A lot of the restructuring I'm talking about is basically outlining it better for the community. Our facility use procedures outline isn't detailed quite enough. It doesn't really explain that, okay, we allow you 2 hours practice per week at the elementary, whether that be 2 1-hour practices or 1 2-hour practice. And we do that obviously so all the community members have a fair shot at practicing. So there's just some better wording that needs to be put in there. As far as some changes, unfortunately, I mean, we need to probably look at raising some fees, maybe assessing some fees with the kind of fields that we have now.
Sure.
And what you talked about, keeping them up and keeping the district pristine. Well, that takes labor and that takes money. So
Right.
As far as actual procedures, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head,
Okay.
other than just making it more user-friendly to the community so they know how to submit, when to submit, and how much time they can have.
Great.
Clarification.
No, yeah, and or maybe just defining some expectations for everybody so that
Yes.
they know where you're coming from a little bit better. And so I like all of that. That's great. You mentioned the warranty work on the LED lighting at Apple Valley and Summit View. Are there any other current warranty issues that we're dealing with at those 2 schools that you're aware of or that you can think of?
We've had some roofing issues that we do have a warranty claim on, and we're still working through that. Other than that, nothing under the warranty. And realistically, the lights were already out of warranty, but because they did have a mass failure, they went ahead and honored that. So we kind of got lucky on that, and I'll give those kudos to Blake, the assistant. He jumped all over that, dug into it, and got them covered.
Great.
So, no, I mean, the schools are functioning well. We have just about wrapped up the issues with the roof, so nothing else that really comes to mind.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for Jeremy. I'm just curious, have we ever experienced a cyber attack?
We experience them every day, all the time, every second of every day.
That's not
Look
good.
at my firewall logs. It's always happening. Fortunately, we haven't been hit by one, but yeah, we constantly are under attack. It's every second of every day, all the time. Right now, it's happening. It makes me just not sleep at night. But no, we have lots of layers in our security. So we have an external firewall, we have internal firewalls, we have everything segmented out. So if somebody were to get in, we have a CrowdStrike on our devices. So we have lots of layers. We have lots of things going on. So we haven't had a cyber incident in that regard. We've had some people fall for phishing emails. So we had a couple people go out and buy gift cards. That's the word. Thank you. Buy gift cards, and they lost that funds for that, but they were able to recoup it by claiming it to their bank. And so there's been a few of those. So we've tried to enhance and really stress that no supervisor or principal is going to ask for those. We constantly are doing things like we have a product called CyberNut that sends out really good phishing emails that actually got our superintendent a couple months ago.
No, not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way. No, he reported it. He just
report
didn't.
to
He was like, "Whoa!" But
everyone who has an email address in West Valley.
yeah, he made sure everyone did not fall for it because he didn't fall for it. So he was really good in that aspect. He definitely shouted to the rooftops, "Hey, don't fall for this." So we're trying to enhance that awareness. So to date, I'm going to knock on wood again. We have not had one yet, but I mean, the time's coming, maybe.
I think you kind of answered most of my subsequent questions, but I'll just say them just for clarification. So my biggest thing was, it sounds like nothing got through our firewalls. Everything was as it was supposed to in terms of catching them and blocking them and not letting them through.
Correct.
That's great. My follow-up question, and you kind of touched on that. I know in my job, for example, we're always tested on those. We get these messages and they tell us, oh, all of a sudden you push the button, this was a test, and it flashes big alerts. I'm just wondering how much training, not just our staff, but even some of the students or others who might accidentally or inadvertently kind of hit one of these.
So this year we
buttons.
rolled out CyberNut to our students as well. So they get the same emails that staff are getting. So they're getting the same thing. So they click on a thing, it'll take them to the page and say, hey, this was a scam. Here's what you should do in the future. So they're getting that training as well. So both the staff and the students. Every year we have, I can't remember that. I don't know what the time is now, but we have at least an hour's worth of training for IT things for all of our staff every year that we have that. And we're constantly sending out newsletters and making people aware about cybersecurity. So we've implemented MFA for all of our staff to access any of our resources. So we're doing all the right things, and hopefully we're communicating. That's one of my things this year is we're going to start focusing on communicating and trying to bring this. Cybersecurity is not an IT's role. It's the district's role. It's everyone that works for it and all the students' role to keep our safe. So it's not just my job to worry about cybersecurity. It's everyone. So.
And one last follow-up question to that, and that's great. That's all good news. I'm glad to hear all those good things going on. Do we kind of track to see from year to year, are we improving in terms of catching and monitoring these things, or do we have any data that shows like last year we caught 75% of these attempts? This year we've improved to 85% or that sort of thing. Are we just kind of keeping track of that and just to see how we're doing?
Yeah, so we have a Barracuda or our spam filter. So we have that. We have all logs, and we can see all of the history of emails coming in. We look at that constantly. Our CrowdStrike, we have a actual SOC that looks at our traffic and looks at our stuff. to actually CrowdStrike employees that look at our data and analyze that. If we do get a hit, somebody downloads a redirector on their Chrome browser or something, they'll capture that, do all the information on it, analysis of it. They'll help us mitigate it. We haven't had any of those, but that's just what would happen. And then we would track all that. So we have dashboards for all the different things. We have lots of places we have to look for all the different things, because we have server logs, we have client logs, we have the Google Cloud logs, we have
Too much.
it's pretty vast, but I could collect something if you were interested in it. But we do have lots of information that we like to. Information's in our name, right? We like to collect it and use it. So
No need for a report. Just
Okay.
curious. I assume it's voluminous. I just wanted to know if we are improving on our own
absolutely.
internal monitoring.
Like
from year to year.
every day we're getting better. Like every day we're making another step towards that. We have a framework in place that we're trying to build to. We're using the CIS framework, which is it's got step by step of all the things that you need to do and to get to that tier 4. So we're on our way. Every day we're getting better. So we're already past tier 1. So we're in the 2, almost 3 area. So every day we make a change and we make one step closer. So constant improvement.
Thank you. No more questions.
All
And
right.
Sheila, not to leave you out, I just want to say thank you for all the work you do. You've done a fantastic job for us over the years, and I just want to acknowledge that. I don't have any questions for you, so great. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a couple for Jeremy.
All right.
So on these newer applications that are just rolling out, and in particular, how do you call that? Custodio?
Custodio, yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Actually, I think that's pretty responsive to some comments that we've received from parents about how do we monitor our students' internet usage on their devices. So I think that's great. And you mentioned this just a second ago in passing, but like for these newer applications, it seems to me like I've received some emails that say, "Hey, we're rolling this out." Are there plans, or are the buildings or IT, or is somebody like having a parent night or a training, like how do you use this, or is that just exclusively through the newsletters? Maybe that's still a bit of a work in progress, just kind of a question, because I think these are great things, and I'm really glad that we're wanting to be intentional about letting parents know. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's on my agenda for my to-do list for next school year. I'll work with Minerva and see if we can get some things figured out and schedule that way. But
I'm not, and I don't want to this is what you should do, but I think that the building principals should also, I would encourage the building principals to be involved in that process, because they're going to be a little bit closer to even, I think Minerva's great, but even being a little bit closer to the students, particularly at the elementary level, I think as in their more formative years.
well, I'll
Anyway,
I'll share something with you. I'm an IT person.
Yeah.
I'm not a social person. So I like to delegate those kind of responsibilities to people that are that role. So I'll definitely work with
Well, just
Minerva
like-
and the principals to do that.
I
for
think
sure.
just something to take
Yeah,
into
no, for
consideration,
sure.
just from the parent
Yeah, no,
perspective.
I totally get it. Yeah.
Because there's so many, I mean, like there's a lot of really good things, and just to off of the provides parent access to monitor their student's device internet access. So we're just to drill into what that specifically means. Their students' devices, we're talking about their Chromebook, or is this like
Both.
their private devices too?
So they get the Chromebook as part of the thing. And when they sign up, they can also install it on a personal device of theirs. So
Oh.
for every student, they get one device and the Chromebook.
Nice.
So they can see the history of they're using the Chromebook for. And they can also install it, and we can't see any of this data. It's just
But
their
it's available
their
for the
kid.
parents.
It's free for the parents, so they can get
Awesome.
one device. I think
They
that's
can also
buy
set limits, you said, like on their usage.
They can
So
set limits,
you
time
could
limits.
Say
They
after
can-
9 p.m.
Correct.
it shuts
They
down.
say you can only use it for an hour on Thursdays, and they have lots of different functionality. It also has a paid subscription where they can actually get like block calls and a whole bunch of other features too, and it's pretty inexpensive. So pretty cool stuff.
Well, like I said, from a parent's perspective, I think this is great, and especially as we're trying to teach our kids responsible internet usage. I just think it's really good. And the more that we can educate our parents on what's available,
Absolutely.
that's great. Switching gears, the phone system upgrade. So what, tell me a little bit more about would this be like a phone system? Like, we bought the phones now. I mean, what we have now,
Correct.
it's our property. So like, is the option to literally buy an entire phone system, or is this a lease situation, or
It depends.
that's part of what you're all looking at?
Because, if you buy a phone, a smartphone like that, it's going to cost $200-$300 or more now with inflation.
Right.
So $750, that's a lot of money. Real adds up real fast. You can lease them pretty expensively, but you have to do that on a yearly basis. So we're going to look at the costs and the ROI and kind of see what's the right process for that. So I don't have an answer for you, but
No.
both options are on the table for sure.
I was just curious, having gone through that process at my own office. It was interesting. So I was just curious if we were looking at buying or leasing, or everything's on the table. And then I guess my follow-up question on the phone system is, are our phones now like voice over internet, or are they literally hardline?
We have VoIP for all of our phones, except for our fax lines, which we still have some fax lines because that's secure transmission that they
Right.
use for records. So in every school has one of those fax lines, but it's still VoIP to a translator and ATA that
Yeah.
makes it into analog. So
Got it.
so we have those, But we also, on top of that, we have integrated with our phone system. We have intercom systems at Apple or at Wide Hollow, Cottonwood, and at Tandem. All of our Informacast, which is our alerting systems, all integrated in our phone system. So we're pretty integrated in the phone systems. So and then Apple Valley, and some of you also integrate with it with our phone system as well. So so it's pretty deep. So it's quite a big challenge.
Yeah, no, I can. It was a big challenge, and my office isn't that big. And so again, I'm empathetic to that. So, okay, great. Thank you.
Anyone else? More questions?
Well, maybe
Right.
one last comment I could share is that I just really appreciate the work of our directors and their support for the mission of the district and the way that they work so collaboratively with our principals. Jeremy's at a weekly meeting that we have with the principals because IT is so integral to the learning systems that we have. We do have the other directors on a quarterly basis. Of course, Joe's at the meeting always representing facilities and such. And it's just really fun for me as superintendent to know that our directors really, they own the work of the district and the mission of the district. And they really promote that if a custodian sees that a kid's having a down day or something's going on, that they'll take the effort to talk to the counselor or talk to the teacher and say, hey, something's going on with that kid. And they'll reach out and make a difference there. And then it's also really fun for me as superintendent to show up to the STEAM showcase at the Innovation Center. So that's science, technology, engineering, and math, and arts in there too. And our custodial staff was there with a robot that we have. Do you want to share a little bit about, Jack, what we have? A robot that's a part of our facilities department?
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's actually Tyler with the facilities department. He's one of the groundsmen, and we do have a robot that paints our fields. And he graciously attended this year and then enjoyed it. I think he would like to go again next year.
Yeah.
Said he got some great questions. It's a great piece of technology. It's going to be upgraded pretty soon, and actually it might make its way out onto our new turf field. So he said the kids were really, and the parents were really interested in it. He had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just so great for me to see like this cooperation and collaboration among the department and the principals and to show up to the STEAM showcase. And there's our facilities department sharing the robot that they have. So really cool stuff. So thank you so much for your work every day. We appreciate you.
everybody.
Thank you. Okay, that wraps it up for the department presentations. And so at this point, I guess we can adjourn.
Yep.
It's 6:45. We'll start promptly at 7 p.m. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everybody. It is, excuse me, it's 7 p.m. We'll go ahead and get started. Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. We'll go ahead and begin the regular board meeting. Let's call the meeting to order, and we'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now that I have the correct agenda, Dr. Fitch, we'll go ahead and go with, any changes to the agenda?
No changes?
Communications, response to public comment?
Yes, we do have a response to public comment. At the school board meeting on March 25th, 2025, community members expressed concerns about the decision to change the PAL program from single-grade self-contained classrooms to multi-age classrooms for grades 3-4 and grades 4-5 for the 25-26 school year. The response is this. The budgeting process for the West Valley School District is an extended process due to contractual timelines and state legislature timelines. Certificated staff include teachers and other staff such as school counselors and special education staff. State law and collective bargaining agreements require that certificated staff must be informed by May 15th of each year that they will or will not be offered a contract for the following school year. For the West Valley School District, the state legislature provides the large majority of funding for the overall district budget. Approximately 84% of the revenue for the school district is provided by the state legislature. 9% is locally funded from the local levy, and 7% is provided via federal funding. Operating expenses are processed through expenditures in the district's general fund. It is important to note that in addition to the general fund, there are other specific use funds for the school district. The general fund is used for operations, including the costs for certificated staff, salary, and benefits. The district also has the specific use or restricted use funds, which include the capital projects fund, the debt service fund, the ASB fund, which is the Associated Student Body, and the transportation vehicle fund. Funds cannot be transferred out of these special use, specific use funds into the general fund. The state legislature meets every year and makes adjustments to school funding. While the legislature sets the budget for 2 years, the biennium, the legislature still makes adjustments to school funding each year. Adjustments are made based on policies and priorities, as well as the realities of the revenue forecasts. All funding from the federal government is provided for specific programs such as Title I for disadvantaged youth, Title III for bilingual students, and Title IV, which funds after-school programs at the West Valley Mid-Level campus. A large portion of state funding is for specific programs such as K3 class size reduction, special education, career and technical education, and many other categorical programs. The state legislature allocates a small amount of funds to the West Valley School District to support services for highly capable students. For the 24-25 school year, the legislature allocated $166,161, which was 0.185% of the budget. That's 185 thousandths of the budget. The legislature stated in 2023 that they intended to provide funding to serve 5% of a school district's population. In West Valley, 633 students qualify for support services for highly capable students. This is 11.4% of the district's enrollment. The district uses basic education funds as well as local levy funds to provide services for highly capable students in West Valley. Services are provided in grades K through 12 through differentiated instruction in general classrooms, the program for advanced learners at White Hollow Elementary, and advanced classes at our secondary schools, such as college and the high school and advanced placement classes. To summarize, in the current school year, the district has provided specific categorical funding from the state to serve 5% of the district's student population for highly capable services. But the district used additional basic ed funds and local levy funds to serve 11.4% of the student population in West Valley who qualified for highly capable services. Each year, the budget process for the upcoming school year begins in earnest after winter break. District administrators meet with school administrators to review enrollment projections and discuss ways to adjust staffing to meet student enrollment. The goal of these meetings is to ensure that the district can present a balanced budget to the school board to adopt for the following school year. Each year, adjustments to staffing are made for the upcoming school year to match the student enrollment projections. Note that it is not possible to construct the final budget until after the state legislature has completed their work. However, staff projections must be completed prior to May so that contracts can be issued to certificated staff by May 15th. In spring of 2024, this is the last year, it was noted that the timeline for identifying students for the PAL program needed to be adjusted. So the timeline was adjusted for the 24-25 school year for this spring. Parents for students who qualify for highly capable services were notified in February 2025 of the opportunity for the PAL program at White Hollow. Parents of students who scored at level 3 were notified that they could choose to have their child attend PAL for the 25-26 school year. Parents of students who scored at level 2 were notified that they could choose to have their child attend the PAL program if there was space available. Parents of students who were from out of district were informed upon registration that placement is reviewed annually on a space available basis. As previously reported, district administrators reviewed the student enrollment projections for the PAL program in March and made the decision to reduce staffing in the program to meet the student enrollment projections. For the 25-26 school year, students in the PAL program will be served in 2 multi-age classrooms. It's important to note that the PAL program at White Hollow will not be eliminated for the 25-26 school year. I met with the PAL Advisory Committee in March and listened to concerns of parents and staff members. In addition, parents expressed concerns at the school board meeting on March 25th. The West Valley School District is committed to providing professional development to the teachers from the PAL program to ensure that they will provide engaging projects for students that will meet the needs of students with a wide range of skills and abilities. And I finished the public comment with a response here. So my own words here. I truly believe in my previous statement regarding the move to multi-age classrooms. Our community does expect fiscal responsibility from the West Valley School District. And the move to multi-age classrooms for the PAL program is a change, but I'm confident that our teachers will continue to have an excellent experience in the PAL program, that students will continue to have an excellent experience, and our teachers will continue to meet the unique learning needs of our students who are served by the PAL program. And that concludes the public comment, the response to public comment.
All right, thank you, Dr. Finch. We'll go ahead and go on to item 6, the program presentation, defeasance process. We have Mr. Plager from DA Davidson.
All right, very good.
Mr. Strong, hold on.
Yes.
Should we, I know that we excused
Oh,
Mr.
that's right.
Kephart during the
You're
study
right.
session. I'd like to make a motion to approve excusing Mr. Kephart from tonight's meeting.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on it. Thank you, Mr. Thorner. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for that reminder. We have excused Mr. Kephart from both meetings.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. All right, let's go on to item 6, program presentation. So
All
it's
right.
all yours.
Yeah, so recently we, the board had said that we would want to look at, if we were to do defeasance, what exactly would that mean? We've asked Corey to take a look at 2 options of defeasance. If they were to defease 8 million of the remaining, it's actually mostly matching funds at this point, or 10 million of the remaining matching funds. And Corey has traveled from Spokane to be here this evening, so I appreciate Corey being here. We usually have the board join the audience so they can kind of follow along on which page is on and such. So I think we'll go ahead and do that. We'll have the board join the audience. And I do appreciate Corey gave us some nice big handouts as well. After the presentation by Corey, we'll have the board come back and ask any questions, Corey. So just give us a chance to get back up here after your presentation. So, okay, we'll go ahead and join the audience now.
Dr. Finch and Assistant Superintendent Connolly, I appreciate the invitation to be here. President Strong and the members of the board. My name is Corey Plager. I think I see some familiar faces. I was here a couple of years ago as this topic came up in the past. A little bit more about me. Live in Spokane, but I support Washington K-12 schools. That's my focus here. And while I live in Spokane, we support all schools across Washington State, split time in Seattle. Before my time at DA Davidson, I was an Educational Service District 101 Director of Finance. So I used to be on the school side before I was recruited to spread my wings and go outside of the Spokane area. What our goal today is really to set the stage, talk about the background of the taxes, the bonds outstanding, kind of give yourself just a little bit extra information to prepare for decision making. Then I'm going to explain the process of a defeasance. It's a little bit unique. It's not the same as maybe a mortgage refinancing, just got a little bit of uniqueness to it. And then I'll have a couple examples, what it means for your taxpayer. So please, happy to answer questions as we go along, but I know these numbers can be a little small, so that's why we brought these paper copies. But to set the stage on page 2, the district has 3 bonds outstanding currently, the 2012 refunding bonds, 2013 refunding bonds. Those mature really shortly. You'll see the 2012 bonds mature this December. The 2013 bonds mature next December, which creates some opportunity, right? Not really necessarily what we're going to talk about tonight, but when there is the sunsetting of debt, you have opportunities that kind of say a new bond, a new capital levy, an adjustment of the EP&O levy. There's opportunity there to continue with investment into the school district without an increase to the tax rates in most cases. Your 2019 bonds, pretty new. They don't mature till 2038. That's going to be the focus of our conversation tonight. The 2019 bonds were $59 million. That does not count the state matching funds that Dr. Finch mentioned earlier, passed with an amazing 60.83%. If you're following school finance elections since the pandemic, it's been a little bleak in our industry, and we're starting to see some slow recovery. One thing that I want to share is that bond was approved at a tax rate to the voters of $2.57. Keep that in the back of your mind as we look at the next few slides to show what the actual tax rate has been and how you've outperformed that estimate to voters. And that bond was issued at 2.78%. We're jealous of those numbers right now. We're now in the 4% range for tax exempt bonds, which still seems pretty good, but not as good as 2.78%. You had some really good timing. Sometimes it's great to be lucky and have good timing. The total bond structure was not level, which means some structures are very vanilla and they're the same amount of taxes throughout the length of that bond. Yours was built where there was going to be a step down in the taxes to give you the opportunity should you consider a new bond. So keep that in mind too. When this bond was built, it was built for needing extra infrastructure in the community. And previously, those bonds in 2012 and 2013, you'll notice they have that refunding next to them. They were refunded by the board and the leadership team, saving taxpayers over $4.1 million previously. Upon completion of these projects from the 2019 bond, however, there are remaining school construction assistance program funds. One thing we'd like to share is you had this bond. The bond proceeds are usually spent first. They have some rules regarding federal tax exempt status, and then you get reimbursed by the state for state schools construction program funding. And that's really what we're talking about here at the tail end. This visual here on slide 3 is trying to describe your EP&O taxes in green and your bond tax rate in tan. One notice, I mentioned your bond was approved in 2019 at an estimated tax rate of $2.57. That very first year in 2020 came in at $2.33. You might ask me, why did it come in lower? We use a lot of conservative assumptions when we issue a bond. We know that the board is representing each neighborhood in your communities, and the last thing you want to do is tell somebody this golden story that, hey, everybody, vote yes, it's only going to be this much. So we tend to put a little bit of an interest rate cushion and conservative assessed valuation growth so that if anything, we outperform the estimate. And this is another example of that happening. Usually it's due to 2 factors, interest rates going down and property values going up. Then each subsequent year, you can see the impact from property value increases. It drops to 218, 197, $1.77. When you issue a bond and you sell a bond, you lock in principal and interest payments for 20 years. So just because property values go up doesn't mean Assistant Superintendent Connolly can propose a tax amount higher just because. So that you'll notice has come down almost $1 over the last few years. So when you hear property owners say, you're getting so much more because my property values went up, that might be the case for some governmental entities, but not the school district. And EP&O in green, you'll notice that's also come down as well. So this is just setting the stage of your tax rate history. Not really pivotal when we talk about the future defeasance, but interesting nonetheless. And one other fact to set the stage here is, what is your community doing? Your community is booming, and mainly with new construction. you'll notice that your tax base was in the 2 billion range, and now you're in the 5 billion range, almost doubling in the last 6-7 years. But this new construction is still really solid. In the year 2025, your community grew almost equally with reassessment of existing homes and new construction. So when you think about that growth, we'd love it to just be new construction and not have existing homeowners bear the burden of increased property values, but it's about 50-50 right now. The 3% growth is more in line with historical averages, but you see in the last 2-3 years, it's been a little bit rough. It's been a little bit of a challenge for homeowners when they see that property value increase. So a little bit more about the defeasance process. We'd love to say that this is easy as a mortgage refinancing, but we have a little bit of parameters built on this because this is a federally tax exempt bond. A defeasance is the process of retiring outstanding bonds. In this case, utilizing those school construction dollars. However, your bonds aren't callable right now. So when you do a home mortgage, you can do a refinance anytime it makes sense to you. Sometimes people might even refinance their mortgage when it doesn't make sense. But when it comes to a school bond and you're asking investors to contribute $59 million to your community, they want to know that you're not just going to refinance it a month later. They're doing a lot of work and research and putting a lot of equity on the line. So customarily in the school bond industry across the nation, there's a 10-year date where these bonds will be held until you can refinance them. So how can we work on saving taxpayer money when your bonds aren't callable for another 6-7 years? This would be the example. You would take cash, use your school construction money, and purchase government securities and put them into escrow. You'd put them into account, and this escrow account would now be responsible to pay a certain portion of your bonds off. So your bonds don't go away. They just go away to you. You essentially put in charge the state treasurer authorized escrow agent, and you would put these funds into an account. They would earn interest up until those bonds are callable, and then they would be paid off. So this removes debt from your balance sheet. It no longer exists from your perspective. You are no longer necessary to tax local property owners. The investors don't know who's paying them. It's going to be U.S. Bank instead of the school district's county treasurer, and no new debt is issued. So essentially, you're putting these funds into a governmental savings account, and that savings account will pay this debt. So it's a little bit unique, but this would be, the example would be is if you're going to refinance your home mortgage, but it wasn't allowed, you'd stash that money away into a savings account, let it build up, and ask that savings account to pay a portion of your mortgage. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about those things as homeowners. Before I talk more about the details, there's a couple other considerations. What would be an alternative? One would be to utilize those state matching dollars for other community-supported projects. I know you've gone through this process previously where you require a public hearing to change any uses from the board's previously adopted resolutions. And some districts consider investing those dollars with the treasurer and reducing a future bond issue. Of course, there's challenges there as money is sitting, but right now interest rates are a little bit higher than they were when you issued your bond. We're right now around 4%. Those are two alternatives. So we set the stage. We talked about the defeasance of bonds, why it's not as easy as just paying them off. They're not callable quite yet. But we did two examples. The first example, what if you defeased $8 million using school construction assistance program matching funds? This would create a taxpayer savings of $9.9 million. However, that's because of the time value of money. The true net impact to your community, what it would feel like, is $8.5 million. So essentially, defeasing bonds of $8 million and putting them into escrow, the combination of the interest you would earn over that time period and the reduction of interest you'll pay on those bonds would result in about $508,000 positive impact to your taxpayers. The tax rate, however, varies across the spectrum. It would be starting off in the first year, 3 cents up to 13 cents per thousand. And I created a visual to demonstrate that. You might notice I'm a visual learner. The screen might be difficult to see, but what you're looking at here in blue is the taxpayer impact. So for example, in 2026, there's a blue line that says you would save taxpayers 13 cents. So that means that the bond rate would be $1.41 instead of $1.54. your tax rate would be 291 as shown here instead of 304. And then you'll notice that throughout the term of that bond, that blue line are taxes you would have issued to the voters locally that you would no longer have to. By putting that $8 million in the bank, that's how much taxes you're going to reduce over the life of that bond. So while I'm a visual learner, some people are chart people, and we also might have people in the audience that would ask, what does it mean to me? It's one thing to tell people 13 cents. What does that mean to an average homeowner? So we have these 6 different home value amounts across the top. We'll start with $350,000. If you follow that line down, you'll notice each year what they could potentially save based on today's market factors. So for example, they'd save $10 this year, $46 next year, and so on. We're using 3% growth on their home values. If you follow the line to the very bottom, somebody with a $350,000 home with this possible defeasance would save $621 over the life. If you shift all the way to the right, somebody who owns $1 million home would save $1,700 by the act of this defeasance. So this is the $8 million example. The $10 million example is not drastically different as we're spreading this over 10 years. You'll notice on the first example, there was about $500,000 in savings. This one has about $650,000 of a net impact to your voters. Now, instead of it being 3 to 13 cents, it's 4 to 16 cents. And as I jump ahead, this is what the chart looks like. The blue is the savings. And here is the homeowner impact. It ranges from $770 to $2,203. This doesn't take into any considerations if there's going to be future increases in EP&O levies, future bonds. This just shows the net savings from this action alone. A lot of information to digest. However, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you, Corey. And we did have your presentation in the board packet, so the board members were able to review that. Also, the public, we include that in the board packet for the public as well. So the public was able to get that on Friday as well. So,
Oh, thank you. Okay, we get to the discussion. Okay, thank you for that information. So at this point, we'll open it up for the board members. Questions, comments?
yeah, at this point, we can do questions for Corey, and then there is time later in the meeting for discussion on the defeasance too.
Okay.
I just have one question. So it's obviously not on the agenda today. But if we were to pass a resolution to do a defeasance, it doesn't matter, 8, 10, whatever the number is. I noticed in these examples that as example of estimated taxpayer savings by property value levels, and you start in 2025. So wouldn't the first year be 2026, not 2025?
It's a great point. What essentially will happen is if you defease it now, this will decrease your fund balance. So you're right, this should be struck through, but this would actually be impacting right now. So if you would save money starting in June through December of the end of this calendar year, but you're right, it wouldn't go directly to taxpayers. It would be kind of building up fund balance. So this would almost balloon up and then impact the next year. So that 3 cents would kind of get pushed forward.
Okay.
It's a great point.
Okay.
So the savings in 2000, I can share that number.
That's, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference, but I think the point is at least my point in asking the question is whatever we do in calendar year 2025, if we decide to pass a resolution to defease, will not be felt by the taxpayers until 2026.
Correct. So that
until
will be
the next calendar year
exactly.
that the defeasance.
It'll be paid forward.
resolution.
Yeah. So for example, the average savings per year in the 10 million example, the way we get to that 14, 15, 16 cents is it's 940,000 per year. But this December 1st of 25, the savings is 200,000. So it starts off very small because the rest of this calendar year.
Yeah.
And so if you did save that in December 25, 26, it impacts your budget next year, not this
Sure.
year, but your taxpayers. You're correct.
Okay.
It'll be pushed forward.
Thank you for that clarification.
Other questions?
Just one question. I'm not sure I totally understand. So on the state matching funds, if we defease money, is it just matching dollar for dollar? I mean, do we lose funds by defeasing, or, I mean, I guess yes, but not on the whole project?
It's really interesting because there'll be a school project where the voters approve 20 million and you get 40 million in state match. Some projects are 100 million and they get 0 in state match. When you have state match deposited into your account, that means you've done everything under your requirements to be eligible to get reimbursed for existing things that were expended here. So you had to jump through certain hoops to get that funding. And now it's up to you if you want to use that for XYZ that's legal within our state. So for example, some people pass a bond and they say, we're going to pass a bond and we're going to assume that we get no state match because that doesn't really show up and is not guaranteed until after you pass a bond. So a lot of folks will then use that state matching funds to do projects that the community is requesting above and beyond. And that's fairly common. But yes, you've done everything that you need to do to get those funds. So it's done and it's locked in. The question would be is now you have the flexibility to use them for state allowable projects or return it to the taxpayers. Returning to the taxpayers is somewhat rare. We actually supported AFREDA on this last spring, and they defeased 6.2 million. And it was the first one I think a school has done in the last 17 years, is what our records show. Most schools will do a reauthorization and go through the process, but AFREDA School District felt it was a communication process. Before they did the next bond, they wanted to share and get kind of a clean slate. So there's opportunity costs as well, because if you just leave it in your account, you're going to make 4% between now and your next bond. But it's not really a slam dunk either way. It's a difficult decision.
Thank you.
It's probably an uninformed question. Can you tell us what some potential downsides to defeasement might be?
I would say the downside to defeasement would be the missed opportunity to use those resources for what's necessary now. Right now, I mentioned the 60.8% passage rate that you received in your previous bond and how excellent that is. The average yes percent has dropped into the mid 50%. So I think the opportunity is if the future bonds are not successful, sometimes it takes a couple opportunities to do that, is that you've reduced your taxes and now you're going to the voters and now you have to ask them for a tax increase. So that's one negative from using it now or holding it until the next bond. But there is a positive action from community trust as well. There's some offsets. So communication is really key regardless of your path. But I think the cons are there is some interest rate risk. Right now it's in your favor as you notice this massive chaos created by tariffs. That's raising yields, which means if you buy state and local government securities, those rates are higher, so you would save your taxpayers more. So we used, Joe and I were putting this together last week, and interest rates have already gone up about 50 basis points. So we already underestimated your savings to taxpayers. So there's an opportunity there. But that if those go back down before you make the decision, the savings get smaller. There's a risk there. But it is there's not a lot of market risk because state and local government securities are some of the safest investments. This is not something where we absorb any risk. We're just giving advice at this time, and it would be all managed through the state and county treasurers. So there wouldn't be a lot of corporate hands involved.
Thank you. That's good.
And I guess, Corey, the interest rate goes both ways, that these bonds were at a very low interest rate for the district. In the future, if the district goes out for another bond issue,
It'll be more than.
yeah, there's likelihood that
Yeah.
it could be more.
So for a defeasance, we're almost rooting for the opposite that schools are normally doing, right? You want low interest rates for borrowing to keep the taxpayer minimum, impacts minimum. But right now with yields higher, this is the one case that would benefit you. But if you do a new bond in the future, it's going to hurt us. It'll mean more. We have time though. Hopefully the tariffs will settle down and we'll get back to some norms. But right now it's a little chaos.
So just a couple of clarifications for me, just as I look at the chart, I'm just using, for example, the one that's defeasing 8 million. That's the first one that you have there. So it's going to take all these years to really defease all of this money. Is that correct the way I'm reading it? So I'm looking at the average home value of about $650,000. So that first year, the tax saving for one family with a home is $19.50. That's it, right? Okay, just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. Compared to $10 million defeasance, which is $26. That's right. So just $7 difference more. So and then follow that same logic all the way down the chart, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And one note is that it shows the impact for through 2038, but the call date is coming up in 2029. So in 2029, this account that you deposit this $8 million becomes $8.5, $9 million. And you're going at that date, when the call date's available, all that money is going to pay off the remaining bonds. It's going to call those. So that's just going to be the impact is those bonds will no longer exist. So between now and your call date, it's going to be saved up. Escrow is going to pay your bills for you. Then when the call date comes around, they're going to just call off a portion of those bonds. So you'll see those paid off, but they're no longer your responsibility. But so it's not going to be something where it's in savings through 2038. It's going to be in savings through 29. And then your escrow agent is going to pay off a portion of the bonds from then on, and they're matured.
Okay. Well, those are good numbers to have. I mean, this puts us in a really nice position depending on what we decide to do with the money. The only other point I wanted to make is just, so if I'm reading that right, that's not a huge difference between the $8 million and the $10 million.
Correct.
So,
$100,000, $130,000.
yeah. Okay. And then in looking at these numbers across the bottom, though, that is the sum total over that period of time, right?
Correct.
So a $650,000 home over 10 plus years is going to save $1,100, 55 cents basically in taxes.
And so not to complicate the factor, but if you look at the very final year of 650,000, see how it says $85? That $85 won't be as valuable. Maybe that'd be one pizza in 2038.
I was just going there, so you're reading my mind.
So that's why on page 7, it shows the taxpayer savings is 9.9 million, but the net present value is 8.5. That's the difference there. It's truly going to be 9.9 million. It'll feel like 8.5 because of what we project is going to happen with the value of money in the future. So that cup of coffee that's $80 in 2038.
Did I hear you say earlier also that many of the school districts go back to the community and try to use those funds? Is that what I thought I heard?
Well,
Or-
I'll say that with an asterisk because you won some of the school bond lottery by passing a bond when you did, and then opening bids during the pandemic in which there was not a lot of allowable construction being done. Your bids came in excellent. You were excellent stewards. Very, very few people ever have any remaining state matching dollars. Most people are actually going back to the voters and saying, we couldn't do what we said we were going to do, and we're sorry. And they have other challenges. So to have a remainder part of the state match is actually a blessing, and it happens very rarely. So I'll say that first. Of the districts that do have remaining funds, many of them do a public hearing and then get feedback and decide how to put those dollars to use, but they are usually very small amounts. It could be $300,000-$400,000 versus $1 million plus. So that's why it's so rare. And AFREDA is the one that kind of did the trailblazing last year. I know we talked about this with the board in 2023, but there's some power to have some savings in the bank should there be roofs, HVAC. We know how expensive everything is. So it's a tough decision.
More comments, questions?
Good.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you for the
Corey, thank
time.
you so much.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, moving on. Now we come to the point of the agenda, public comment on non-discussion agenda items. I do have 2 individuals who requested to speak. And again, just since we don't have a lot of people here, you do have adequate time to speak, but I want you to just be a little courteous of other things that might be going on the agenda, but feel free to share with us what you feel. So first I have Rachel.
I know you know I'm here for the PAL decision. I would like to address tonight what it looks like for a PAL student or a high cap kid who needs PAL and is denied inclusion. Under the current plan, at least 8 children have already been denied. Of these, some will get bored, they'll disengage at school and may act out, like Owen said last time, leading them to be labeled a troublemaker. Others will finish their work quickly and then read or play on their Chromebook or get stuck doing extra work that does not increase their understanding but does keep them busy. They may stop doing their work at all to avoid standing out and being made fun of for being different, or they might put forth minimal effort, just enough to still pass. Some will never get challenged enough to have to try or to learn resilience. They'll get overwhelmed later in life when they finally do meet a challenge and have no coping strategies to fall back on. Some will get assigned to help other students learn instead of learning themselves. These are often labeled and mocked as a teacher's pet. And some will feel isolated, anxious, and lonely as they struggle to connect with others. None of these options is ideal for these students. My son experienced some of these things in 2nd grade. However, making the decision to move to PAL was hard. I felt that our school administration at that time did not encourage us to go. I was afraid that leaving would offend them and would tarnish our interactions if we ended up coming back. Everything else we loved at the school, so it was hard to leave. At that point, we didn't know what we were missing. Ultimately, my son's need for friendship drove our decision. We moved in his 3rd grade year to the PAL program. There he learned what academic challenge felt like, what overcoming challenges felt like, and what failure and trying again felt like. He gained skills and friendship that can't come by studying by himself in the corner. Those same kids from that class are still his best friends today. His elementary school experiences in PAL helped him become the confident and high-achieving young man that he is now. Last week, I met with Dr. Finch and Joe Connolly to discuss the change in the PAL program to multi-age classrooms. We reviewed much of the financial information that was available. They confirmed what I brought up at the last meeting, that there's no plan to incorporate any other classrooms into a multi-age structure in elementary age. Why do these kids deserve less from their educational experience than any of those other kids? Why should kids who need more help be singled out to receive less? Because it will be less. Some pitfalls I can see in combining 3 classes into 2. There will be less openings for students who need the program, causing future program shrinkage, as happened last year when it was announced they'd be combined. Fewer opportunities for students in and out of the program to develop friendships. High level of stress on the 2 teachers expected to do the work of 3 or 4 teachers. Loss of depth teachers will be able to offer in the classroom as they teach to multiple grades. Time-consuming disruption, as 4th graders will need separate instruction from the rest of their classroom. Logistically difficult planning, that kids in 2 classrooms for 3 years won't see repetitive material or be given busy work. Other elementary school teachers outside of PAL are also not seeking training in teaching high-cap kids and are not prepared to help these kids in the general classroom. I know there were many classrooms this year. Some at the high school only had 6 or 7 kids in them. Many at the elementary level only had 17 kids in them. We had the numbers this year to do 18, 19, and 22 in those classrooms. But we're turning them away so that we can max out the classrooms for these kids that have the ADHD, the autism, and other things that they need. They need more one-on-one, not less. At this point, stating that we have enough teachers but not enough for the PAL program feels like an intentional disregard for the needs of this group. I know the people in this school district care about kids and what's best for them. We have all sorts of special needs opportunities in the form of classrooms, clubs, and information nights. Please don't cut this group out of your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Mr. Jensen.
You know why I'm here. So I met with Joe and Dr. Finch last week. It was a great conversation, right? They took a lot of time. It was an hour and a half meeting with them. We went through a lot of the financial stuff. We went through. I'm a finance guy, right? I'm a CPA, work in accounting, so I very much appreciated that, right? And I expressed my appreciation to them for how well the finances are of the district, right? Talking about the defeasance is another example of that, right? They've done a very great job with the financial aspect of our district. Hands down. Like I have given them props for that, right? There's, looking at saving the taxpayers' money is great, right? That's what I want to focus on. Again, is my wife brought it up, is the kids. These kids need more help, not less. These are the kids that need a little extra help, right? You talk to the teachers. From what I've been told, there hasn't been any administrators go to the PAL classrooms and actually see them in action. And that's really hard to hear when they're cutting this, right? They're changing it. They're not cutting it. They're changing it drastically, right? From 3 classrooms down to 2 multi-age classrooms. And from what we've been told, there's no other elementary school classrooms that are going to be multi-age, that are general ed. We know that there's special ed that have multi-age. That's separate, right? General ed, elementary school classrooms that don't have multi-age. That's a big deal, especially when teachers haven't been trained, right? Are they going to be able to get trained in 6 months? Or it's going to be less than that, it's going to be 3 or 4 months, right? It's a drastic change. What we have continued to ask for is let's look at this in a year, right? Are we willing to how much are we willing to deposit for these kids for 1 year to not change the program? Are we willing to make a deposit on these kids that need more help for 1 year, right? We talked to Joe and we talked to Dr. Finch about maybe in the future, we look at a levy to help pay for the PAL program, right? We have a advisory committee in the district, right, that was supposed to help with this. They weren't an advisory committee. They were just told what was happening when and it just happened to be the day of their meeting. So go back to, this district has been run financially great, right? Is one teacher's salary going to affect it? Are we willing to deposit one teacher's salary for these kids that need extra help? So I thank you guys for hearing our pleas, and it really will affect these kids. You can't say it won't, because it will. Their friendships, the classroom attention that they get compared to what they're getting now. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. I will ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak now that we've gone through the roster here. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I came late. I had to do a emergency procedure way down Toppenish. But anyways, you know, I mean, my daughters, I have,
Mr. Liu, can you restate your name again?
oh, I'm sorry. My name is V-U-L-E.
Yeah.
So
Doctor.
I only have one daughter, and I'm sure my daughter will be fine with multi-age or whatever, you know. But I do think that it's not fair to combine the classes like that for the kids in the future. I don't think I will ever send my kids to the POW program knowing that they have to share the teacher. And, you know, they already expressed concern that they're going to get bored waiting for the teacher to address fourth grader and then, you know, you can imagine you have a third grader coming in, and then next year, they're not sure they're going to be in third or fourth. And then even when they're supposed to be in fifth grade the year after, they may still be in fourth grade, depending on their performance. And I'm sure those kids who are pushed back and say, oh, you're going to share the classes with the third grader again, I'm sure it's going to cause some self-esteem issue. You know, we used to have two PAL classes. So I wonder, I mean, this is just for future, for the community, because I think it's important to have the classes there. My kids benefit a lot from it. And I'm sure in the future, there'll be good member of society because of the PAL program, all part of it. But I wonder, instead of having two combined classes, can you just do 4 and 5th grade? Because, you know, we used to just have two classes. That way the kids have their full teacher, because if you're not doing it to any other classes, it's just simply not fair that these kids were targeted. And I understand that you have your reasoning, but somehow the discussion will never share with the public, with the committee. And I feel it's not fair. You know, I'm from a different country, and I love America now. And sometimes I wonder, like, why in America that, you know, you try to take away the opportunity for kids to study harder, to become better leader in the community, and then yet you are like Microsoft, Google, or even Starbucks would hire a PAL kids from India that's been in the PAL program all their life to lead. You know, this is the future that I see, that I know a lot of cities are trying to get rid of the PAL program because of issue that we discussed last time. And I feel like we should be, you know, taking a bold move and say, no, you know, we should help these kids, you know, so they can help in some way build America in the future. You know, I feel like any athlete, if they want to play soccer, baseball, without a coach, no matter how good they are, they're not going to be the best. And it's the same for these kids who have autism, like my son. They need that kind of training. They need that kind of, you know, not just intellectual training, but mental support from the teachers. And I feel that, you know, combining these classes will discourage the community, and most likely you're going to get rid of the PAL program. And like I say, you know, I would never send my kids if I know they have to share a teacher like that. It's simple. So I really ask you to, you know, discuss in terms of, if you want to get rid of the PAL program, this is the way to do it. But if you don't, maybe, I don't know, if you don't have enough money in the future, just do a 4th grade and a 5th grade. Or, I mean, you can't do 3rd and 4th and make the kids go somewhere. So that's my, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this issue, and I'm sure you guys are too. I don't know what difficulty you're facing, but clearly you're not discussing that difficulty with the community. It's not a topic that, you know, we hear about. So, I mean, if it's about money, I don't know if it's even legal to get funding. You know, you get sport team, go out there and ask community parents to donate. I don't know if we allowed to do that, you know, to gather parents and supporters to donate for the PAL program, to keep the 3 classes, if it's money issue. But if it's not, then I do think that every kid should deserve their whole teacher. Unless, you know, we out of budget, then all the kids should experience the same way. It's just not fair for, you know, all the kids in the future coming in PAL program like that. And I bet you it'll be a lot of parents who are going to be discouraged from sending their kids to the PAL program, and you'll close it eventually. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Next.
Hi, my name is Lynn Tran, and I'm sure you guys remember me from my last meeting. I also sent an email follow-up after my speech last time, and I didn't hear anything back except from Dr. Finch, so thank you. I do plan to meet with Dr. Peter here and Mr. Connolly in about a week or two. I've just been really busy. I wasn't actually prepared to make a public comment today, but I feel like after hearing Rachel's speech, I really need to speak up. I've been part of the highly capable advisory board meeting since its inception in 2017, back in December of 2017. That's how long I go back. My kids are no longer in PAL, but I feel as if I need to be an advocate because my kids truly, truly are high achieving kids at the high school right now. I wish last year I had known that the enrollment numbers are falling as they are claiming, because I would have done something different. I wish that there was transparency by the administration at that time to bring back some options to us a year ago before we arrived at this decision today. I feel like the decision is made with haste. It is not made with the way I see it. I'm a project manager. There's many ways to solve an issue. There's many ways to skin a cat. And I think that we could, as a group, and I pleaded in my email to you all, that we are here to help. And that's what this committee is for. We meet 4 times a year, but I am willing to meet outside of those meetings in a year's time to bring the numbers up and think of other options. There's many flaws in why the enrollment fell, and it's not necessarily because of lack of interest. I'm going to tell you that right now. PAL has always been targeted since 2017, and I feel like it still is in a lot of ways. I know that, as mentioned by Rachel, I know that teachers in this district don't go to the professional development that's offered to them, except for the 3 PAL teachers. So I'm worried. I'm really worried where we're going with this. And I've mentioned before that a program like this should be promoted, not diluted. And it really is, my fear is, sitting on the advisory committee, in about 3 years' time, there will be no highly capable program anymore. I'm gonna call it right now. So that's my fear, is this is just a stepping stone to something a lot bigger and worse than where we wanna go. So with that, I just ask that this board, Dr. Peter, Dr. Connolly, I plan to meet with you in about a week or two. Let's think outside the box here. Let's see if we could turn the tide. I know the numbers may not hit that May 15th that you're seeking, but I heard some options here. I heard some pleading. Please do reconsider. And I think this board here, the 4 men that are here, can make that change. And only if you guys are willing to make that change. Because we will probably continually come here and plead our case until May 15th, because the decision hasn't been made yet. Thank you.
Before you leave, just a clarifying question. Did the email, where did you send the email?
The generic school board.
Just the generic school board?
Is it being blocked? That's my curiosity. It hasn't been blocked.
No, I don't think so.
No, but I'll make sure that I resend it just to make sure that they have it. Okay?
Yes,
Yeah, I received it, so.
okay.
So I assume
Well,
it was going.
Mark receives it because I have his personal email, and you're on the advisory committee, Mark. The other 4 are not. I only have access to your generic school board, and I've been blocked before from this.
Well, let me just, I'm not going to get into blocking because frankly, that doesn't happen.
Spam.
But I will just represent, I did not receive the email. And so that's why I'm asking that question. So Dr. Finch, if you could make sure that.
Yep. Tomorrow I'll make sure
Thank
that
you.
it goes out again, and I'll get confirmation that they receive it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And my fear is when I say block, it's not me personally. I think IT puts it in spam. So just,
Well-
I know a lot of parents have sent it and they haven't heard anything back either.
Okay, thank you for sharing. We appreciate it. All right, any more comments? I don't see anybody else here. Yes, Mr. Marinacci?
Good evening. Beautiful day. I just wanted to go back to last school board meeting, the agenda. And on the agenda, I reviewed it very carefully prior to the meeting because I was very interested in one of the resolutions that was on it. And it's listed as an action item. And so I intentionally contacted Dr. Finch and I said, hey, just want to be clear. If I want to speak about an action item on the resolution, on the resolution, what is my time to speak on that? Because customarily in the past, where there was something of, I should say, a bigger issue, there would be like a discussion, like a separate time period that you could speak to those particular issues. And he said, hey, you can go ahead, you can speak during the normal speaking time. I said, great, fantastic. And I did. And you guys heard what I say. I noticed, however, during when that action item was brought up, I was under the impression that because it was an action item, that perhaps it was intentionally set up that way so that there wouldn't be any discussion amongst the board members. There would just be a vote. And it was opened up so that you guys would have a discussion. Board president opened it up, nothing wrong with that, had a discussion, people shared their views, and then there was a vote on it. And my preference would be when there's something that's on the agenda that potentially, there's going to be a discussion, not just a vote on it, that you guys have your discussion. However, somebody part of the community can come up again to speak to what is stated, and then you have your vote. So I mentioned this to Dr. Finch. Dr. Finch said, yes, he's open to that. However, I did tell him I was going to speak tonight to that particular point, because my view was I wanted to speak after I heard some of the items that were spoken to. So as a community member, I would appreciate just in the future, just keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
All right. Again, thank you for your comment. All right, I don't see anyone else in the room, so I'm assuming there's no more comments to be made. Thank you all for your comments, and thank you for speaking up and even just showing up for this evening's meeting, so we appreciate that. All right, moving on to item number 8, action items. We have a number of them. I have one item in particular down here, so I would like to just, if you don't mind, we could take them one at a time. Anybody?
Yes, it's not consent agenda, so
Okay.
I would suggest taking A, B, C, D.
Okay, perfect. So first is the approval of minutes, item 1 and 2 under 8A, study session minutes, board meeting minutes. If anyone would like to make a motion to approve those items.
I'll make a motion to approve those items.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the March 25th, 25 study session and board meeting. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Next is the approval of the travel requests. Product Safety, University of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, May 11th through 16th, of 2025. Again, I will take a motion on that particular item so that we can vote. Would anyone care to make a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve the travel request.
All right, we have a motion to approve. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of resolution item C, number 25-04-774, delegation of authority to WIAA. Just to make sure everyone understands that is different than what we had last week. I just thought I'd bring that up just to be sure. All right. Would anyone care to make a motion on item C, number 25-04-774, delegating authority to WIAA?
I'll make a motion to to move on delegating authority to WIAA.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries 4-0. No wonder I had trouble. That has a
There's a little typo.
misspelled. I'll try to read the words. All right. Next, we will go on to item D, approval of West Valley Education Coaches Association 3-year contract. Hopefully, everyone's had a chance to look through that. We'll go ahead and take a vote if someone would like to make a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve West Valley Education Coaches 3-year agreement.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a vote on that since we have a motion. All those in favor of signifying the approval of the West Valley Educational Coaches Association 3-year contract for 2025 through 2028, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Next, we come to item 9. Again, the discussion items here, we can talk specifically about defeasance. We just had a presentation on that, so I'm going to open it up at this point. If there are any comments, any discussion anyone would like to have?
I'd like to weigh in on a couple things. First of all, the presentation was, we had it a couple years ago, obviously, before the new school board members, or our newer school board members rather, have joined, but it's always, I think it was great to have it again, and I probably couldn't listen to it enough to fully understand and grasp, and the visuals are helpful. So thank you for making that possible. In terms of the, I want to be maybe clear about where I stand on the matter so that there's no assumptions on anyone's part. First of all, when in 2023, when we had the resolution, my position was that we should have not passed the resolution. I did not vote in favor of it. And my reasoning behind that was that when we ran the bond and successfully passed it, it was based upon the premise that we would build 2 schools, nothing more, nothing less. And that was the implied promise, despite the wording of the bond. That was the implied promise that was made to the community at that time. Regardless of how that vote turned out, the process that we went in terms of engaging with the community and trying to figure out, okay, what should we do with this money? I thought was an overall very good process. It led to good discussion, a lot of input from the community, and ultimately resulted in a vote of 3-2 on a list of projects that some of which we have completed, some of which we have not, for a variety of different reasons. I said at that time, and I will continue to reiterate today, that I will respect the vote of the board on the resolution that passed 3-2, even though I voted against that. And my actions have been consistent with that, in that my responsibility, our responsibility collectively, is to use the money that we have resolved to spend in a financially responsible and prudent manner. And I'm very proud of the way that we've executed the projects to date in that regard. I think that, despite my dissenting vote on the resolution, the repairs that have even been outlined tonight during the study session, I'm proud of those repairs. I think that they were good uses of a good stewardship of this money, and I think that we've done the projects in a financially responsible way. There are several projects that remain on that list that have not been completed for, like I said, a variety of reasons. In terms of the actual defeasance and should we not, and when should we do it, I think that the timing of that decision should come after we have received the updated long-range facilities planning report, which will be later this year, when we are going to assess what are the district's needs in terms of our building infrastructure in particular going forward. So I personally would like to see that work completed, and hopefully if and when we should make that decision to defease, using that as an overall strategy to put the districts in the best possible position should we decide to go out for a bond, in terms of the communication that would send. Also, we have to be mindful about in February, undoubtedly, we will be asking the voters for a renewal of our present levy. So all of these things, I think, are factors that should help us, guide us in our decision-making on defeasance. Should we, shouldn't we, in addition to the information that we received tonight, how much we should, and how does that impact our asks if we decide to do that later this year. So I think tonight was a necessary, and I won't even call it a first step, but a necessary step in that process as we continue to deliberate. But in terms of the timing of deciding if and when and how much to defease, my suggestion would be that let's wait on the long-range facilities plan update to be completed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Do we know about when that's going to be completed?
The next meeting is coming up in May, and then the plan was to have a first draft of what we're looking at, and then basically have some time over the summer to consider that, and then come back and finalize it in September.
Okay.
So that timeline would work on then looking at what the needs are for the district, developing the levy, and then certifying what the tax rate would be for the following year. So it would fit within that timeline.
And normally, I'm sorry to jump in,
go
but
ahead.
in the past, when we've run a levy or frankly a bond, we've sort of honed in on that in the fall, and then the resolutions would be passed. I believe it's got to be by like November in order to get on as I'm looking back at Mr. Conley, he's nodding his head. I believe there's there's a deadline in, I want to say like early November that we have to have the propositions to the voting department or to the auditor's office so that we can get it on the ballot if we were to run in February. And as I'm picturing in the past, all of these various deadlines for when we have to pass a resolution at the board level so that things can be placed on the ballot. And there's a variety of different timelines. But for the February ballot, I know that it's like early, I want to say it's like early November. And I'm sure that we can get that. But I just wanted to say that, not to interrupt your train of thought.
What was I going to say? No, I'm sorry. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Not having been here when that 3-2 vote happened, I, as a member of the public at the time was, when I voted for the bond, I felt like it needed to go to the two schools and the money should have been, all the money should have gone back or made a decision by the community. However, since the vote was 3-2 and I came on the board after that, I appreciate what you said, Mr. Thorner, about all the projects that have been done. I've appreciated that. I've appreciated the manner they've been done and the savings that we've had. And a lot of those things were needed, and I understand that. So I appreciate all that. Clarification question. I have a lot to think about and a lot to read here too, but clarification question. My sense at the end of the forums that we had with the public and the vote, it wasn't promised in the vote, I don't believe, but my general sense was that at the time we were going to spend, it was a $59 million bond and we saved $19 million. And sort of the end of the whole discussion, my recollection is that we would spend about 13 million-ish and give back to fees about 6 million. So the numbers that we're talking about, 8 to 10 million or above, are instead of, so 6 million is already pretty much promised to the public, I would say, then. And so now we're just talking about another 2 to 4 million. Is that correct? Am I stating that correctly?
I think that seemed to be,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
just in my
think that
thinking.
seemed, I think that was my recollection of the conversation. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
Yes.
and that was with the sort of, and I'll call it an informal budget or projections on what the project costs would be conservatively and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at all those and it's been done well and we've saved some money, et cetera. So, okay, I'm just trying to get clarification in my head before we move forward on what that would look like and how much savings that would be. I feel pretty strongly with comments I've heard that a lot of the public, felt we needed to fees that money or more. And I think that does go a long ways in building future trust for future bonds. So that's where I stand on the defeasement. As a matter of how much and how we do all that, still a lot of processing has to go on here. Thank you.
Any comments?
No, not really. I'm still in the learning process of it. I think I'm in favor of defeasement and then just figuring out what that number looks like. I think the 8 million, we probably get more of a benefit than the 10. And so then there's the value to be able to use and then to also honor things that we've said. And so that's where I'm at right now, but nothing's firm.
I think we're close to the same wavelength here on a lot of these issues. Of course, I was around, as was Mr. Thorner, when we went through this whole process. And your recollection is pretty much spot on, I think, as far as I can recall. There was that additional money that was left over, and the amount we talked about defeasing was somewhere in the $6 million range. I think the thing that's important to me is we have been good stewards of this, and I like the idea. I think Mr. Thorner suggests that we have a plan, a strategy on how we do it. The amount, I think, it's important, but it's secondary important because we have kept our word to the community, plus the idea of that more than likely, depending on how we do this, we're going to defease even more than what we promised initially. And that sends a good message, not only on our ability to manage the money and do the right things with it, but also our ability to plan and move forward as we think about these things. I like Mr. Thorner's talking about when we do this, because the timing of it is everything in the world. The timing of it, I would like to see that our plans and our strategy as we move forward actually give the community the maximum benefit of all of this, right? The benefits of the bonds dropping off, the prior bonds, the tax advantage, the fact that we're going to defease this money. I mean, all these things, the timing would be great as we go forward and even looking at a bond or levies as well. I think those things coming together at the right time send a stronger signal than we've already been able to send. And not only that, I think that it would be welcome news given the current climate we're in right now to much of the community. So I'm with both of you on this. It's also a matter of how much we can do. I kind of drew the same thing you did, Mr. Heed, that between $8 and $10 million, when I look at the total difference in the amount, it's minuscule. But when you compare, what we would get in return.
Yeah, the freedom that you get from it.
Well, not only that money will sit there gathering interest for us. They could pay for some very good things, that amount of money gathering interest for us, and still we're defeasing even more than we said we would.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pros and cons. The key is we just have to weigh them out carefully. I go back to the thought that we have a plan in place as we move forward. We just don't do this and, we're going to randomly decide on the amount.
Yeah.
There needs to be a rationale why. And I think that's real important. So the only thing that's missing right now is Mr. Kephardt's part of his discussion, what he may think, but we'll have an opportunity to include him at some point. So
Let me just say one other thing, if I may.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the at last month's financial information. And as of the end of February of this year, the total fund balance is close to $14 million. $14 million. I just want to say that clearly. Didn't mean for my voice to trail off. About $14 million. And then a few more weeks, there'll be some additional interest. There might be some expenditures, but $13.7 million is that amount. The state matching portion of that is about $11.2 million. Just so as you have that. What I wanted to add was not that, but what I wanted to add to what Mr. Strong said, and as we think about the amount that we are going to defease, is also the amount that we retain.
Mhm.
Because what I think is really important about the retention piece is having a plan or a set of a plan and or a set of principles for how that money would be used is also of material importance to how I will individually vote on this. And let me be a little bit more specific, because one of the concerns that I had from the very beginning when we were talking about defeasing and so forth, and what do we need, what are the needs of the district? Okay, so chiller upgrades, boiler upgrades, roof repairs, the track, the football field, all of these things were identified as things that we need to do in the last iteration of the long-range facilities plan. Some of the things that ended up on the resolution were things that were not on the long-range facilities plan. So my concern back from a couple of years ago was that, okay, if we retain and we're going to utilize, that it becomes this. What I want to avoid are the emotional wants and the emotional asks.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by the, and that's not to say that, again, I don't want to, I also don't want to be misrepresented or misunderstood when I said anything that was on the list was an emotional need or an ask. I'm not trying to say that at all. But what I am trying to say is what is important to this individual school board member is that if we retain any portion or anything that is not defeased, that we have a either identified list of projects that this money will be utilized for, and we are legally required to do this anyway, but a good process about how we are going to go utilize these monies. So or how they would be utilized in the future. So that's probably a little, I just wanted to develop that just a little bit more for everybody's consideration. So I'm sorry to, again, take up
No, it's good.
that, but just to say that out loud too.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing you say is that you'd like to see it as a designated.
Well, it has to be designated, but I'm a little bit reluctant to give an example of what I mean. But I want to make sure that, or I want to ensure that if this money is utilized on a capital project need, that we are undergoing as much objectivity in that process as possible, and try a data-driven, relying on professional advice, these kinds of things, rather than hey, we really like to because this is what we'd like to do. These are, HVAC system, mechanical systems go out. Wells need to be replaced. Some of these things that we identified, some of the things that are identified on the list, for example, are things like improving the junior high auditorium, which was identified in the long range facilities plan, but we haven't tackled that yet because we may or may not be modernizing or improving the junior high as part of another bond issue. We don't yet, that's to be determined. So, I mean, and so from the sense of not attacking that project yet, that makes sense because we don't know where we're heading. That's again, back to the idea of let's have a plan. Let's see what happens let's see what the outcome of the updated long range facilities plan be. But whatever we retain and however that resolution looks like to defease and potentially retain some of those monies, along the lines of what Mr. Strong said, and I just wanted to develop this just a little bit more in terms of what is it going to take for the resolution to garner a yes vote from Michael Thorner, is having a good sense of a plan for the use of that money. And even if we haven't identified that project, how do we go about identifying projects that are on that list in as an objective process as possible?
It's good.
I will add one other point as well, and it's probably kind of taken for granted, but we all would, I would think, have the same perspective in one area, and that is our communication with the rest of the community on this whole project, on this whole defeasance. I mean, it's important to me to know that everybody in the community is aware, whether they're for it or against it. It's important for them to know all the details about it. And I think one of the things that helped us last time get through what we were going to do with some of those leftover funds is that we went through multiple community forums. We made sure that everybody had a chance to provide input, whether they wanted to or not. They had the choice. And I think as we go forward with this, once we have, I immensely like the idea of getting the Long Range Facilities Committee's final document as we go forward. But once we have all those things in place, then I think we go back kind of doing similar things again, just to make sure it isn't even so much for the input in terms of just making sure they are aware of the process, what we went through, why these decisions were made. And ultimately they could, by virtue of a forum, change some of our minds, or they may not, or they may reinforce what we're already thinking. And hopefully it is the latter, but nonetheless, it's important that that communication takes place. And one last thing about that, I don't want us to take just a one-shot approach at this. You got one shot to say your point, and that's it. I think it may take one or two forums or something like that where the community has a chance to speak, because sometimes some people can't make it to the first one. They can come to the second one and so forth. Or other people hear about the first one and they become more invigorated and come to the second one. And to be honest, a last point on all this, that's really what we want. We want the community's involvement. Sometimes it's hard. I see 4 souls here that made it out tonight because they feel strongly about an issue. We need more of that. And these issues are very important. The last thing I want is after the decision is made, then we hear from them. So we want that. And I'm saying that now because when we get to that point, it's going to be important that I know when I was doing it, I just told everybody I could, come to the forums, come and listen, come and state your point of view. So it's important that we get that message out there. That's the last thing I want to say about that, really. I think that's critically important. All right, anyone else? Any other comments? Well, thank all of you for your input. Again, very important issue and topic, and more information to come on that, I'm sure, as we get closer. All right, public comment on discussion items. So any member of the public here? Anyone? All right.
Right.
To-
Yes.
What we
Defeasance.
just discussed.
Yep. And we won't be counter discussing it. We'll just
I
listen.
echo exactly what you said, Mark. Whatever you just said there at the end, I'm sitting here nodding. If you don't involve the community and parents at the onset, this is what happens. You know, parents come here, they're frustrated, they're upset, they want to meet with you all personally. We don't have any of your emails, so we don't know if you're even hearing us or what you guys are doing about it. That's why I actually purposely came to this meeting, because I wanted to see your response. We heard Dr. Finch's response, but I would love to hear from the other board members as well. So yeah, that's all I wanted to echo is for this bond levy things that you guys are just considering. And considering that it's a very short term, I mean, you guys only have a very short window, right? Because I know that thing has to be on the ballot in February. So very short window to earn the community's trust. So I'm here. I'm one of your active members out here in the community. I'm willing to assist, but please, I'm still back at PAL. Please don't break my trust. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for having is this on? Thank you for having a time for a community member to speak after great discussion by all of you. That was fantastic. One little clarification, a little bone I pick. Don't call it savings. It's really just excess funds. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's not savings, it's excess funds. There's a lot of reasons why we have a large amount of money. It's not necessarily because of savings. There's good timing, interest. There's an element where it was estimated a lot higher. So it's excess funds, not savings. It's a little misleading to the taxpayers. I want to say a lot of what Mr. Thorner said, I'm in complete agreement with. You really have to have a plan for this. And I think about the future, the previous times that we've gone through this, and it's been brought up by the most recent, February is going to be right around the corner. And I think the idea of seeing how a long-range committee comes, whatever their thoughts are, I think that's really critical. And Dr. Finch, since I'm on that committee, I just wonder, even though we're meeting on May 7th, if maybe we can expedite the report from that, because I think getting the word out, and I would just echo also what was just stated. If you want buy-in a community, Mr. Strong, you're absolutely correct. I think it was excellent that we had all those community meetings before and you guys were able to get feedback. And I think that's good. So it's better to be proactive, rather like an example of the PAL thing, reactionary. You guys get it out there. I think that's the best thing to do. So thanks for talking about this. And again, Mr. Thorner, I think you're spot on a number of the things that you said. So thank you.
So I was actually at all three of those forums that were mentioned. And I have to agree 100% with Mr. Thorner. Like have a very specific plan. And I think it's all about the timing. That is so important, right? Because I'm also on the long-term facility plan committee, and there's going to be some needs, right? I mean, we're talking about 2 new schools potentially. And something at the junior high mid-level campus also, right? So there's lots of needs of the district, and I think it's all about the timing and getting that message out is going to be critical to the passage of the bond, because we're going to need another one, obviously. So you guys are doing great. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, I echo what everybody's comment on getting the community involved. I just want to also remind you that I think Mr. Thorner was here on the last levy, and the last levy happened to be at the time when you were considering whether you terminate the PAL program or not. So you had lots of us here, and you say, hey, go out there and pass the word for the levy. A lot of us did that. A lot of us were here, went out, and there's 2 classes, 60 parents. went out and, I literally, all my patient, I harassed them for that, you know? I mean, I'm always for the school. It just, the way I grow up and the way we emphasize on school. So I'm everything, I want to do for the school. And so I just want to let you know that, somehow you're really concerned about this defeasement that I have no concern. If I save $50 a year, it's nothing, And I don't know if many people even think about that. I mean, they go get a meal for $50, but you clearly see that 90 of us here, parents of, actually, we have 60 students, so that's more than 100 parents are really concerned about this PAL issue. And I don't hear any, beside Dr. Finch, personally talk about the importance of that to us, that why you make such a decision, that why eliminating one class is so important out of, I don't know, more than 200 classes of all the high school and middle school, elementary school, that you have to eliminate this one class. It just doesn't make sense. And I think not hearing clear explanation from you guys, that's not going to sit well with us. I just want to, I personally donate $3,000 a year because I have 3 kids in the school. And I have to reconsider that, not because it's just that I just don't understand why our voices and our concern are not addressed clearly, that you make somebody or whoever, however a decision's made that brought us to this stage that, I feel it's just unfair. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Anyone else? I think there's only 2 left. No? All right, well, again, thank you for your comments, and we appreciate your time and being here and sharing your thoughts. Moving on to item number 11 on the agenda, items arising. Anyone? No? No items arising. We'll move on to the
Well, we've been talking about them.
That is true. So we'll go ahead and move on to the superintendent's report. Anything you'd care to add, Dr. Finch?
Yes, the superintendent's report, just wanted the board to be aware. There's both things at the state level and the national level that are concerning to us regarding the budget for the upcoming school year. We learned about this House Bill 2050. I did testify via Zoom as a con against this bill. It was sponsored by Representative Ormsby, and he's chair of the committee, so we'll see what happens with this bill. We have concerns about this bill moving forward. House Bill 2050 was heard on April 3rd. This bill would shift a percentage of our apportionment revenue from the state coming to our district. It would shift it from February, March, and April and move it to August. So this will have a negative impact on our cash flow and our ability to manage our day-to-day operations. And if this bill passes, the West Valley School District will need to increase our fund balance in order to provide funding for day-to-day operations, such as payroll and expenditures. In the past, the legislature has adjusted apportionment, and with House Bill 2050, it would result in 25%, so a quarter of all of our state apportionment would come to us at the end of the school year in July and August. So that would be the next July and August is what we're talking about. So we'd have to, have our day-to-day operations, payroll. A lot of people don't understand our apportionment does not come a set amount each month. It's not 1/12 throughout the school year. And this would actually be a detriment to the West Valley School District if this passes. The others at the federal level, there was recently the U.S. Department of Education sent letters to all the K-12 state agencies across the nation, requiring them to certify within 10 days that their policies were aligned with the presidential directive against diversity, equity, and inclusion. And just be aware for Title I, that's the federal money for Title I for disadvantaged youth. That's $1.4 million that comes to the West Valley School District. And I can give you an update that Superintendent of Public Instruction for Washington State came out today and said that he was not going to sign the certification. He said that he's already sent a letter and saying that the state does comply with all Title IX requirements, and that that it's unclear exactly what the presidential directive means. And so we're just going to see how this plays out. But again, that would be a large impact to our budget if we were to lose our Title I funding. So just wanted to have the board aware that there's both things at the state and national levels that are concerning to us as we move forward with the budgeting process for the upcoming school year.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Finch. I guess I haven't really given a lot of thought to the idea that it sounds like even some of our funds that come in are based on fee reimbursement. I mean, we get them later, or do we get,
Well,
we get them during certain times of the year?
Right. So the first thing I talked about was the state apportionment. And so apportionment is the amount of money that comes based on our enrollment.
Yeah.
So it's not the special categorical programs, it's the apportionment. And so I think I didn't realize when I was principal, I didn't realize until I came into the district office that the money doesn't come 1/12, 1/12, 1/12.
Yeah.
It doesn't come to the district like that. It comes at different and it's basically all through the years, the legislature has made adjustments based on what their budget is. See, for the state, by changing that apportionment, it moves it from one fiscal year to the next.
Yeah.
So even when I was there listening to the prep before the testimony, they were saying, well, this will save the state like 113 million or something. It doesn't,
It just pushes it.
pushes it,
Yeah.
and it puts that back on the local districts that they're going to have to come up with the money to make payroll. So in order to do that, we have to make sure that we have an adequate fund balance so that we can make payroll and do our expenditures. Our insurance costs we don't pay them all in July and August. We have ongoing day-to-day operations. So that's a concern. And then back to the federal money. Yes, many of our federal grants, we do the expenditure and then get reimbursements for that. This was actually saying that in this fiscal year that they were going to allegedly stop payment for Title I unless the superintendent of public instruction signs this certification. We'll see how it all plays out. I mean, there's been lots of back and forth between the executive branch, judicial branch, and the states, but just wanted to make sure you were aware that there is this uncertainty that's out there.
It could make a huge difference, and I could see easily how. Just to clarify my other question, though, are there any funds that come to us late in the year like that, other than this proposal here?
Well, there are some of the categorical funds are done on a reimbursement, so we spend the money and then we submit for reimbursement. And unfortunately, we have seen that it's not always consistent on the amount of time that the state gives us, does the reimbursement. Sometimes we've had to wait up to 4 or 5 months until they get the reimbursement. So that's just another reason to have adequate fund balance so that you can have the cash flow. There are districts that are in very difficult situations that they don't have adequate fund balance, and their only recourse is to borrow money at that point. But when you're borrowing money, then you're having to pay interest when you're borrowing money. And so it just kind of digs your hole deeper. So that's why it's really important for us to be fiscally responsible as a district and have an adequate fund balance for all these uncertainties that are out there.
All right, thank you for the clarification. All right, there are no more comments or questions. We'll move on to item 13, board reports, board development. Anything from anyone?
Yeah, just a couple things, or maybe a request.
Sure.
So I have the district's website up, and I've navigated to the school board page, where I see a really old picture of me, which is me of much younger. No, but and I know that as the website has changed, we have the board member contact form, which is great, and I know when members of the community have the opportunity to basically email the school board, and it generates an email to us. In the past, and I think we should still keep this up, but in the past, if you were to push Michael Thorner or click on Michael Thorner, for example, it would have a hyperlink to my email for the school district. I'd like to see that maybe return for the school board members. In addition to the board member contact form, having schoolboard@wvsd208.org also be included as a hyperlink, so that if people didn't want to use the board member contact form on the website, they could click on the hyperlink, and then their mail program could email the entire school board. And just as a reminder to the audience, and it's not a secret, you can email us directly at our last name, first initial at wvsd208.org. So I want to try to remove the technical barriers that may exist. I don't want to say anything that's out of turn, but I'm quite confident that we're not intentionally blocking anybody from trying to contact us. But looking at the website, I think that we could do a little bit better. And so those are just some considerations that I would encourage. But that's why I wrote up on the thing. It's our last name, first initial at wvsd208.org. And then, or you can email the school board at wvsd208.org. So anyway, I always, in my real work, I use email a lot, and my biggest fear is not to receive something.
Yes.
And for my sarcastic reply is that sometimes my spam filter keeps out emails that I actually want, and so I actually want everybody's email. But so anyway. No excuse. If we
Sounds
can
good. We'll look into
work
that.
on that, I would appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great suggestion. I like that idea too. So. Okay, anybody else? Board reports, board development? Hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting today, again, Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 8:41 PM. Thank you, everybody in attendance.